Gosh, I'm never going to get tired of ringing that bell. This is probably the only time I have power anymore in my life. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to the August 19th, 2026 meeting of the Seattle 4 Rotary Club, the fourth oldest Rotary Club in the world. And I love that. I love that. Thanks. Today we have got a full program. And what is interesting, we all recently had our survey results come out and we all looked at them. The number 2 topic of interest to this club, most important to all of us, is education. And today we're going to be doing a lot of talking about education and what it's doing for the future of our great community. But to kick us all off, I think the best thing to do, let's all stand up. Welcome Trish Bostrom, who's going to lead us in song today. So everybody please stand. Oh, let me get out of the way.
Oh, no, you have to sing. Okay, folks, here we go. The sun is out. The sparkling water is gorgeous. It's a zippity-doo-dah day. So we're going to sing zippity-doo-dah and hold your notes because I may be going off and harmonizing with you. Here we go. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. My, oh my, what a wonderful day. Plenty of sunshine heading my way. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Oh, Mr. Bluebird on my shoulder. It's the truth. It's actual. It's a really satisfaction. Zippity-doo-dah, zippity-yay. Wonderful feeling, wonderful day, wonderful feeling, wonderful day. You were great.
Trish, I think we kind of sucked, actually. You were really great. You were awesome, man. We're all sitting out, everybody ready to start singing the table talk song. Everybody, please sit down. Because without our words, we're kind of a lost crowd, aren't we? All right. Let's see. First of all, thank you, Trish, obviously. The only banjo playing attorney in the Pacific Northwest. I also want to thank our greeters, Hillary, Josh, Kate. Thank you all for greeting. Please remember to get your sticker on the back of your badge starting next month. We'll be scanning every badge into the meeting so that we can keep better contact with all Rotarians, something that's very important to us. Dan Mead-Smith, thank you for the meeting reporting today. And we also have a number of really great guests here today, a few that I'd like to call out. Let's see here, go to my notes. We have 2 visiting Rotarians, love our visiting Rotarians, Jean Marie Furman and Kit Furman from the Rotary Club of Winter Park, Florida. Are you here? There we go. Welcome, welcome. Also, we have Eric Graham with the Rotary Club of Las Vegas Southwest. His email address, though, is for Seattle Bank, so don't know what's going on here. But Eric, are you here? Hey, welcome to the club. Thank you for being here today. Let's see, what else have we got here? Oh, Brianna C. is here today. Being a fellow elected official myself, I always like to help out my fellow elected officials. Bianca is here. She's running for King County District Court Judge. Please feel free to talk her up. Give her your suggestions. We in public office love that. And let's see. Finally, we have a couple of guests here today for our new member, Suzanne. Her husband Robert and daughter Ella are here. You're going to learn more about her in a few minutes, so a little bit later in our meeting. But welcome. And finally, could I have all visitors here today? Would you mind please standing for us so that we can welcome you to the meeting today? So all visitors, please stand. Thank you all for being here today. All right. We have probably the toughest job in this club has got to be VP of programs. Anybody who's been in that job will agree with me on it. It's a lot of work and a lot of responsibility. And our guy, Andrew Lewis, a relatively new Rotarian, is doing a stellar job in running it. But also what I'm impressed with is his committee. He has a committee that helps him, that supports him, that gets involved. They not only bring up suggestions, but they'll go out and find the speakers and bring them into our club. And that's why we get such great speakers. It's how we best work as Rotarians. So our thanks to the committee. One of the people on that committee, you may remember, you may not, I don't know. Past president, name is John Bridge. If that rings a bell to anybody. Anyway, he's the reason that Ben Shuldiner is here today. So I can think of nobody better for the honor of introducing Ben to our club. John, thank you so much. Thanks, buddy.
Gee, I get the microphone again. All right. I have the honor of introducing our new school superintendent to you. Ben Shuldiner since February, has been our school superintendent. And boy, does he have a job to do. And he'll tell you more about that, I'm sure. Because school is starting, we hope, very shortly. He most recently served, though, as superintendent of the Lansing School District in Michigan, and he was there for 5 years. Prior to his role in Lansing, he held several prominent system and policy level leadership roles. He served as a Dean's Fellow and Distinguished Lecturer in Education Leadership at Hunter College in New York, and where he directed all school and district leadership programs, and you can imagine how big the school system in New York City is. In 2015, he was appointed to the New York City Board of Education, which is the largest school system in the nation, serving more than 1 million students. Just imagine, Seattle has up to 50,000 students. 1 million is quite a bit larger. In 2016 and 17, he was elected president of the Association for Supervision and Curriculum Development, the nation's largest professional education organization, representing more than 125,000 education leaders and practitioners across 138 countries and 52 affiliate organizations. Earlier in his career, he served as the founding principal of the High School for Public Service in Brooklyn, New York, and under his leadership, the school was named one of the top 50 high schools in New York City by the Daily News and received a bronze medal from the U.S. News and World Report. He comes from a family of educators and education leaders and holds a bachelor's degree in history and science from Harvard College, where he graduated magna cum laude, and a Master of Science in Education from Baruch College. Now, most importantly, he just got married on last October 25th to Veronica Scott, who is the founder of the Empowerment Plan, a Detroit program principally to aid homeless women. So without further ado, I'll have our school superintendent come up and tell us a little bit about him and the school district.
That's me. All right. Well, good afternoon, everyone. As you heard, John so very, very nicely said that I'm Ben. I'm the superintendent. That's really all you need to know about me. I have been in this game a long time. I care deeply about education. But the reason why I was so honored and willing to speak here today is, well, it takes me out of union negotiations, so I'm thrilled. But more importantly is that the story of education is the story of the city. It's the story of the country. It's the story of the world. We have to care deeply about our schools. And so what I hope to do today is to really just give you a sense of the vision and the mission of what we're doing right now. We'll have times for question and answers, but what I hope I'm able to do today is to give you a good sense of where we stand today and where we hope to be moving forward. So we have one goal, and that's to become the best urban school system in America. We should ask for nothing less. This is Seattle. Our kids deserve the best. I mean, so does every other kid, but I'm the superintendent here. So we're going to make sure that we're going to be focusing on this one North Star, and that is to make SPS the best urban school system in America. where any family can confidently send their child to a school knowing that the system will serve them at the highest levels. That's really important, right? Because if the goal is to be the best urban school district in America, that means every one of our schools needs to be a place that our students and our families feel comfortable that they're getting the best education. So here's the reality, and I don't know, the AV people will hate me for this, but I'm going to walk. So here we go. You can see the slide deck. To say that we're going to be the top school district in America, you need to define that, right? And so we believe that the definition should be the top 5 in 5 years in our goal system, in our kind of expectations. So right now, our 3rd grade ELA proficiency, so we take something called the SBA, which is the state exam, but it's also the exam that all of the schools on the West Coast take. So you could see this is actually California, Oregon, Nevada, and us. And so what you've got is that right now we're at 62.6%. And to be in the top 5 in this system, we would need to be at 67.2. So we're going to round up because we should hold ourselves higher. So it's 67.5. That's our target, and that's where we would need to be. For 8th grade math, you could see that it's a little bit more serious. We started at 50.3 and we got to get up to 65.9, and then we round up to 66. So you might say, well, Ben, what's going on here? Our ELA scores seem to be okay in 3rd grade, but what's going on in math? Well, A, we got to just do better in math, but B, something very interesting happens in Seattle. Between 5th and 6th grade, we lose almost 10% of the district. Our families really like our elementary schools, and they have a lot of questions about our middle schools. So what we see is families leave after 5th grade. Well, families that go to private school tend to have kids that are on grade level. And so what ends up happening is it's actually a decrease, not only in the number of students that we have, but it's a decrease in the proficiency rate. So we have to do a better job. And hopefully by holding kids more, we're going to be able to go up, as well as just change a lot of the things. And then the last one, and this is probably the most serious one, is our graduation rate is at 86%. 86% sounds high. It's actually not. When you look at across the state of Washington, because again, you can't compare graduation rates across states because each state does a different thing. So you can compare yourselves to the state itself. And in order to get to the top 5, we need to be at 94.2. So that's a pretty big jump. But let's be honest, graduation is actually not the goal. We want to make sure kids are college ready, career ready. And so we've now created a new kind of idea, which is graduation plus. And we define graduation plus. Graduation plus is very clear. It's not taking an AP class, it's passing an AP class, passing this test. It's passing an IB test. It's getting a college and a high school class passed, meaning that you actually get college credit. And then we're also giving credit for seals of biliteracy. We are an international city. We should promote kids knowing more than just one language. And then so you've got 5 different ways to get the graduation plus number, and they're here as well. Now, here's the thing that we got to talk about. This is us. We are number 8 when you look at all the districts in Washington, California, Oregon, and Nevada who are of the 50 largest districts, right? We're not looking at a school district that has like 8 kids. And there are schools that's so the districts that small. So we're number 8, which is pretty impressive. But this is the problem. When you compare us to other districts serving students that are on free and reduced lunch, meaning students that are experiencing poverty, we are number 25. And remember, this is relative, right? So yes, we do know that historically students that are receiving free and reduced lunch do not do as well as students that are not. That's unfortunate. It's something we need to fix. But the problem for Seattle is we're not even keeping up in terms of how we are doing relative to other schools. So what we do in Seattle is we are very, very good for some students. In fact, we're one of the highest performing school districts in America. But what we are not doing is serving certain students very well. Students with disabilities, top 5. That's actually really impressive. Now, there are some questions about that because what we know is that a lot of students in Seattle who are receiving services look very, very differently than students that receive services in other school districts. We find a lot of our students who are receiving services for things like more time on tasks, more support, but not necessarily severe need. So that actually kind of adjusts the numbers. We also do surprisingly well for ML students students in ELA in 3rd grade, but you will see how that drops later in the presentation. And here's where it is also incredibly despondent. We are the #1 school district in the West Coast for white children. I mean, good, right? 44% of our district is white, so that's pretty impressive. But when you look at it based on Asian, Black, Hispanic, we're not doing nearly as well. And again, the language that we're using is the federal language, right? We want to compare across districts, so we're going to use the language that the feds use. Look at what this says. We are 22nd for Black students. That is unacceptable. That is unacceptable. But I also want to say that we've been spending a lot of time and a lot of effort on equity work. And yet still, this is where we are. We have to rethink what we're doing for our students if we're really going to move the needle. Multiracial is actually relatively high at 8, but Hispanic and Asian is much lower, and we need to be honest about that. So this is what it looks like. These are our goal frameworks. Again, we want to be the top 5 in every section. So this is what we need to do. And some of these were already there, as students with disabilities, EL. But when you look at things like Black, 20% differential, 19.1, but you know, who's counting? Hispanic, 11. Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander, 31%. Now those numbers are a little bit hard because the number on the denominator is so low, but we use an average of a 3-year roll, and we got to go by 30%. 8th grade, math, not bad, top 7, but look at our free and reduced lunch, 23. Students with disabilities still high, but now our ML students are down to 16. Clearly, we need to be disaggregating data so that we know what we're doing. Again, race, Asian, 23rd, Black, 24th, white, number 2. And again, this is relative, right? So we have to own the data. We have to understand what's going on. We are really one of the best urban school districts in America in the aggregate. We are not one of the best school districts if you look at different populations. So again, it's the same framework. And this is graduation. Graduation, we're already starting below. Graduation, we're at 15, free and reduced 16, students with disabilities 15, ML 19, and then this is by race. Now, again, the thing about the Black number and the Asian number, it's a little bit hard to see, but if you notice, there's not enough school districts that have enough students in those different designations. So yes, it's true that we're 11th, but we're 11th out of 19, not 11 out of 50, like all the other things that we're looking at. Again, equity framework, this is what we need to do, and this is for graduation. So you might be saying, well, Ben, I thought you were going to say nice things about Seattle and we were going to be really happy. And again, I do want to make sure that we recognize that this school district really is one of the best school districts in America. It really is. I've been around the country. When they talk about the best school districts in America, they'll say San Diego or Boston or Austin. We blow them out of the water. We really do. And I think Seattle has to take a lot more pride in what they do. But we also have a huge problem in terms of our discrepancy. So the question you might be saying is, well, how do you fix that? Well, I wouldn't say it's simple, but it actually is clear. And what we have to do, and this is what any educator will tell you, is that there's 3 things that move the needle: tutoring, mentoring, and a high-quality teacher in each classroom. And the high-quality teacher in the classroom is by far the most important. But is at the district, we are not clear about what should happen in the class, then everything goes a little bit batty. And in fact, I usually pull it up, but we don't have time and I don't have hands. But when you walk into classrooms, and I visited all 106 schools, and I visited probably over about 1,500 classrooms, it's completely disparate. We have classrooms that have 3 recesses plus lunch plus PE. I've seen classrooms that don't start direct instruction for 3 hours. I've seen classrooms that don't get more than 30 minutes of direct instruction for the first half of the day. We have to change that because our children deserve better, and we have to have higher expectations of our children. Now, I love SEL. I love social and emotional learning. It's very, very important. But if more than half of your day is not based on actual instruction, you're not going to actually move the needle. And so what you see in front of you, which is, of course, small print, and I didn't know that we're going to have the thing over here, but what you got, and of course, we'll make all this public, and I know that you're videotaping this, is that we have now created an actual, this is what a day is supposed to look like. 120 minutes of English, 90 minutes of math, 45 of science, 33 of social studies. Now, I was a history teacher, so the 33 I'm very sad about, but it's the deal. And then we have specials, library, PE, that, and then social emotional. So we're mandating that you have social emotional, but we're also talking about actually, 120 minutes of English. This should not be shocking. But in the great city of Seattle, we sort of let everybody do whatever they want all the time. And that is great for some and not so great for others. And if we see from our data that there's certain populations that are not getting served, one of the reasons why they're not getting served is that we don't have a baseline of expectation. So I also want to just turn to some organizational goals. It's not just about academics. We also have to make sure that we're clear about what else we're holding kids accountable for and really what we're holding the adults accountable for our children. We have 6 goals: increase English, increase math, increase graduation. Those are the academic. And then on kind of organizational, we have to increase enrollment, we have to increase attendance, and we also have to be fiscally solvent. To put a little finer of a point on it, we are completely bankrupt. We will be insolvent in less than a year. That's it. That's the game. And so we have to be really thoughtful about how the money that we get, we're spending. Right now, we get money, a lot of money, $1.35 billion, but we spend a lot more than we get. And that is not a way to move forward. And so one of our big goals is, instead of having a projected deficit of $72 million, which, by the way, it doesn't matter, because the moment you get $1 in deficit, the game is over. You're not allowed to be in deficit as a school district. The hope is that we would have about a fund balance of $100 million. Now, I also want to be really clear here. Some people believe that, well, Ben, if you just have more students in the district, everything's going to be okay. Incorrect. And the reason for that is we are structurally insolvent, which means that for almost every kid that comes to our school, we spend more money than we make. If you are an elementary school student who goes to a school with more than 300 kids and are not BUST and are not special ed and are not ML, then maybe, just maybe, we are breaking even. Everybody else, we're spending more than we get. So it doesn't matter if I got 10,000 more kids in the district. We would just be more broke. So we have to be really cognizant about what we have to do as a district to be there. So this is our goal. We do want to get to 52.5, but not because of the money. It's because we actually want to be the choice of families. To put a finer point on it, every morning in Seattle, 20,000 children wake up and go somewhere else. 15,000 go to private school, and another 5,000 go to either charter or other districts that are not SPS. Kids literally get on a ferry and go somewhere because they are not choosing SPS. And so when we increase that enrollment, what's that going to say to us? We're doing a good job. Parents believe in us. We're really caring. So again, attendance is one of the big ones. I don't have to belabor the point, is that we have some students that are coming to school pretty well and some students that are not. And we have to really double down on supporting those kids. And we like to call this the alligator. This is our fund balance. So we've stopped a little bit of the bleeding. In the 6 months I've been here, we have cut $50 million from the budget, but that's not going to be good enough. So the first main line that you can see, that's the reality. Those are the numbers that we had. And then the orange was what we were projected to before I got here. The good news is that we've staved off bankruptcy by 1 year. So if you notice on the slide that this blue is the projection update as of June 26. But at that moment, the game's over. Can't go below 0. And so we are definitely in a position as a school district that we have to make some very hard decisions. It is not okay for a school district to just kick the can down the road. This district's been doing that for a long time. Game's over now. So we've got to just have a reality about it. Now, some other things to talk about is, again, how are we going to do this? Is that we are creating something called the Framework for Great Schools. This is based on research that came out of the University of Chicago about 25 years ago. And it really says that there are 5 things that you have to focus on in order to get student achievement. And that first ring, if you look at it, it's rigorous instruction, supportive environment, and collaborative teachers. That's all what happens in the classroom. Very, very important. Then effective school leadership and strong family and community support. That is the school. And then the big rings are, of course, trust and equity, which are two big things that would be district-wide. Happy to go into this in much more in depth, but I know it's 12:55 and I got 5 minutes, so I'm going to try to continue on. But more importantly, this framework is something that's going to be in every school. We're going to be focused on it. Now, how are we going to know if we're doing it? Is that we're going to be doing surveys for all of the families, the students, probably starting in 6th grade. I think a 2nd grader could take surveys, but who knows how accurate it's going to be. But then, of course, we're going to ask the staff as well. And so by creating that idea around this equity framework, this framework for great schools, we're going to be able to see how our school is doing, how are we serving our families, and then what we can do. Now, again, this is what I want to make sure that everybody's left with. SPS really is one of the greatest education systems in America. There are schools in this system that I would send every child to. They really are incredible. And in fact, the U.S. News and World Report just came out with their list of best high schools, and we had 3 in the top 20 in the state of Washington. That's pretty impressive. Very proud of that. Also, that large aggregate number is obscuring some of the problems. There's a big problem with our differentials in terms of outcomes for different populations. And unless we start to unpack that, we're never going to actually move the needle. The third is, of course, is the widest gap is in 8th grade math. We're going to have to really double down on middle school. We're going to have to really do some really focused work on middle school, especially around math. And then certainly we have to figure out a way to get more kids to school. And that might be transportation issues. That might be about start times. That might be about how we do enrollment. But really, if a kid isn't at school, it's pretty hard to learn. So the second to last one, the penultimate one, is enrollment is stabilizing, which is pretty good. And we do think that we've got a chance to go up. I mean, honestly, the best thing for our enrollment is how expensive it is and how families have less money now because they're not going to spend $55,000 a year for private school. But the truth is that the more that we create these schools that parents really want to go to, the better. And we've seen it already starting. One of the interesting side notes is though we lose almost 10% of kids between 5th and 6th grade, we actually get more kids in 9th grade than we do in 8th grade. So they really do like our high schools. We have these large comprehensive high schools that families really like. So the more that we can really trumpet that, the better. And then, of course, the financial stability. If we don't have any money, we can't have a school district. And so we've got to be really clear about where we are and what we need to do in order to move that. So the goal is clear. Top 5 and 5. In 5 years, we're going to be in the top section of all of those metrics that we said so that we can really say that we're the best school district in America. We have a framework. We're preparing tools. One thing that you'll hear about, maybe not, I mean, you can always ask me about it, is that we are going to have 3 ways of looking at how schools are doing. One is called a quality to review, where we're going to be sending teams into every school every year, maybe if it's for a day, if it's a small school, 2 days, if it's a large school, where they're actually going into classrooms, they're talking to parents, they're talking to kids, they're talking to teachers, and they're really spending a whole day or 2 days looking at how that system's going. So that's the quality review. Then the second leg of the stool is all the survey data. And then the third leg of the stool is what we're calling EduStat, where we're actually looking at all of the interesting data, the test scores, the attendance, and all of those things. And when you put all that together, you're going to get a sense of how the school district is doing. And then, of course, we're going to be looking at all the other things that are making our district work, HR systems and hiring systems and, even school, the buildings themselves, right? We have some schools that are amazing and there's some schools that are falling down. And so if you don't have a good environment for kids, it's pretty hard to learn. So that's really where we are. There's a lot to be said, of course, that I haven't said, but it's 12:59 and I know I have about a minute left. So here's the deal. I think we're going to open up for questions for the next 8 minutes. Is we should be really proud of where we are. We're doing very, very well for how we are as a school district. We turn out some incredible, incredible people. I would, in fact, think that some of you might even be graduates of SPS, which is pretty awesome. Woo woo. And so we should be really proud of that. And then what we also have to recognize is that we are not serving very large sections of our school district. And that unless we start to really bring that to the fore and unless we really talk about it in a very, very critical way, we're never going to move the needle. Because I will say, and I mean, I know you're videotaping it, but whatever. Seattle is a really performative city. They like to talk a lot about things, but the outcomes don't really get there. And so we've got to figure out a way to be really honest about how outcomes are. Now, there are people that are trying their absolute darndest. I've never seen more people try to work hard for kids. But the problem is that if we're not focused on the actual outcomes of children's success, we're never going to actually move the needle. And so with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, and I appreciate the time. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for coming. My name is Tracy Brown, Cleveland High School, class of 1979. And on the Alumni Association board with Tracy Arnold as well. So we'll be celebrating our 100-year anniversary next year. We are going to be sending something to you on January to come there for that 100-year anniversary. I'm the chair. Question I have, a couple things. A couple years ago, I did a research for the Commission on African American Affairs around the social determinants of health. And we specifically, one of the areas we looked at under that determinant was quality of education. And so we looked across the state and we contacted the community through surveys. And one of the things that kept coming up was the lack of preschool, the readiness by the time the kid got into kindergarten or first grade, and whether or not there was going to be some push for some universal preschool. Because what we know is if they're not there and they're not ready with those executive skills, that it has a diminishing return. And especially by fourth grade, if math and English are not a priority and there's not some intervention, clearly by the eighth grade, they're more than likely not to show up, not to graduate and drop out. So what efforts potentially are maybe you thinking about in terms of those executive skills and preschool to sort of move, so before they get there, before this whole journey for them begins to have diminishing returns?
Yeah, no, thank you so much for the question. So, when I was a superintendent in Lansing, on my first day in office, I sent everybody back to school because they were out for COVID. And the next Monday, we created universal pre-K. So I'm a huge fan of increasing pre-K. The problem right now is that the way that pre-K is funded and the way that pre-K is run in the state is it's very different than everywhere else. I will say that we're working very closely with the mayor's office and a lot of other folks to try to increase the number of spots, because you're right, the earlier that we get kids into pre-K, the better. And I think the other thing that we have to also make sure of is that in pre-K, it's actually academic, because it's all well and good to do the social stuff, which is very, very important for a pre-K, but there are so much good research out there that says if you start to build those executive functions, you start to build those skills. So I think what I can say is we're going to try to increase the number of seats, but then what we also have to do is just be really, really thoughtful about kindergarten, right? Because what we're seeing is, yes, some of the students that start with pre-K will start a little bit higher, but to your point, over the years, that actual differential doesn't work. And why is that? It's because we might not be doing what we need to do in kindergarten and in first grade and in second grade. So I appreciate the question. Certainly, I'm a huge fan of universal pre-K. So.
Thank you, Dave. Sorry, Jew. You talked about us being a performative city. We're also a very progressive city. And we are, you're in the middle of bargaining. I think you talked well about the internal things that are within your control.
Sure.
Tell us about the externalities that help or create limitations for what you're trying to do around budget and performance.
Yeah, it's a great question. It's funny. I talk about this a lot. Seattle likes to think of itself as a liberal city. I actually find it to be a libertarian city. People just don't want to listen to anybody. Like, you get to do whatever you want at any time, all the time. That's libertarian. That's not actually liberal. And so I think we have to be really thoughtful around like what the reality is. But you're right that we are progressive in a lot of ways. And one of those ways is that we pay our teachers one of the highest salaries in America. I mean, it is extraordinarily high, and they deserve it. No knock. The problem is the funding we get from the state isn't commensurate with that. So the way that the school funding works here in the state of Washington is that the state says this is what we think a normal school should get money for. Well, we're not normal. We're Seattle, right? We're the special snowflake. And so because of that, we spend all this extra money on all these extra things. Well, that's not how it works. So I think the external things that we need to talk about, and I would love all of your support, is that those wonderful people in Olympia are not funding us anywhere near where we are currently, let alone what we need. So a good example is, let's say, transportation. There's this bizarro formula for how you do transportation funding. We spend 77% more than what they give us for transportation. But that's because, like, I don't know, we have traffic, right? Like, there's not traffic in these other districts, right? And the way that we do the busing routes, we have to do it because that's the way that Seattle works. So I think where it's really helpful, I mean, hey, feel free to donate to the school district. We need $100 million. But I think what we also can do in this room is really talk very strongly around, hey, all of these elected officials say they care about education, but you know what? Here's your best example. At McCleary, when the case was decided and they finally gave some money, 52% of the state budget went to education, right? And in the state constitution, what does it say? Paramount duty. I like to believe that a definition of paramount duty is 50% plus one, right? Most, right? Great. So we're at 52%. What are we at now? 43%. So the state, I'm not talking about increasing their budget, decreasing their budget. The piece of the pie we deserve is 50% plus one. And right now we're getting in the low 40s. So that's the external thing I can't control that is really making it very difficult to continue to do the job that we need to do. So thank you.
I'm glad that question came because this is a good follow-up to that. So if you have a $72 million problem and you know the state is not very reliable, what are some of your options that you're looking at as you move forward? Because you got 12 months, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, you know, everything is on the table. That's what I like to say. You know, one of the issues is that, and again, this is, I mean, I really like the SCA. I think they've been really great bargainers, but, you know, in the contract, we have these formulas. So, you know, one thing you would think is, well, Ben, well, can't you reduce headcount? Well, you actually can't. Because if we're mandated to have X amount of teachers for X amount of kids, we're already at those limits. And if we can't break the contract. So, you know, look, there's some efficiency. And again, we've already cut 50 million from the budget. And so there are some efficiencies in terms of central office. But even if I fired every single person in the central office and kept like me, we'd still be bankrupt. Right. Like, you know, so I think we've got to think about, you know, how can we rethink how we do school? Are there certain programs? Are there certain projects? Are there certain school systems that we can? So the big one, of course, is, you know, if you've got vacancies, don't fill them, right? That's a big one. But it's more complicated than that because of the things that are already in the contracts in terms of ratios. So, you know, look, everything is always on the table. You know, you wouldn't want me as a superintendent to be like, oh, yeah, we need to save money, but not that, right? So there's a lot there. You know, you'll probably see over the next 6 months, we are doing a big reorg. We're saving money that way. We're trying to think about what we can do partnering with the union. But yeah, it's really hard. And this is why we're in the position we are. So thank you.
And that's the time that we have for questions. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Before you go.
Before I go.
I've been told to hold the microphone closer to my mouth so they can hear me. As a way of saying thank you for being here today, our foundation, the Rotary Service Foundation, has donated 600 healthy meals to people in need under your name. So thank you. Thank you for all you do for our kids too. Oh, and now Ben has got to leave right away, so I ordered your lunch in a box for you, Ben, but unfortunately they haven't made it over yet, so hang tight. Some of the chicken isn't quite cooked too, so be careful. It's interesting when you become president, you know, you find out all these things. Hey, you know, that chicken's not even cooked, you know. Let me put that on my agenda here for next time. All right. All right, we got Ben. Oh, we have a couple of new. Best part is when we get the chance to introduce some new members into our club. Vicki Oxley is going to introduce Susanna Sakay. And following her, Stan Chrissy. Remember President Stin? Stin Chrissy, the hardest name to say, President Stin when he was Stin. Past President Stan Chrissy is going to be coming up and doing a Bloodworks appeal. So, Vicki.
Thanks, President John. Okay, good afternoon, Rotarians. Thank you. It's my pleasure to introduce our newest member, Susanna Sakay. Susanna's story is one of resilience, leadership, family, and service, and it begins a long way from Seattle. Susanna grew up in the Balkans, a Bosnian town just across the river from Croatia. When war engulfed the region, Susanna was only 14 years old. She and her family were forced to flee their home and spent the next 2 years living as refugees in Montenegro. When they were finally able to return, the home, the community they had known were gone. Susanna has described her town as smoldering and unrecognizable. Her family had to find a new place to live and begin to put their lives back together. But out of that extraordinarily difficult situation came an opportunity that would change the course of Susanna's life. She had learned English, studying really hard and often on her own. Following the arrival of the peacekeepers and the signing of the Dayton Peace Accords 4 years after the conflict started, she was in her family store and noticed a female NATO officer. And in fluent English, she offered to help. NATO needed translators and interpreters who could help with border negotiations. Soon after, she became an interpreter for NATO's peacekeeping mission, helping in the effort to rebuild communities that had been torn apart by war. Susanna later lived for 2 years on an American Army base. And in the final month she was there, something rather important happened. She met Robert. Robert was a member of the Army Corps of Engineers. His unit helped rebuild the bridge Susanna used to cross the River Sava. He was actually on his last rotation. The two married, and after navigating the hurdles involving the starting of a new life together, Susanna moved to Seattle. And what a life she has built here. Susanna entered the wellness industry and ultimately joined the Washington Athletic Club in 2011. Over the years, she took on increasingly significant leadership roles, and today she serves as president and CEO of the Washington Athletic Club. She's the first woman to lead the club in their nearly 100-year history. What I find especially compelling is how Susanna's earlier experiences seem to have shaped the leader she has become. She knows firsthand what it means to lose a sense of home and community. And today, she leads an organization with a philosophy centered on creating community, belonging, and a place where people feel at home. But as impressive as her professional accomplishments are, family is at the heart of Susanna's life. She and Robert have raised 2 wonderful daughters. Madeline, 22, graduated last summer from the University of Washington with a degree in political science. And after interning with the U.S. Senate in Washington, D.C., she got a job as a lobbyist where she advocates on behalf of public interest for Washington State. Ella, 17, is already thinking about following her sister's path to the University of Washington with an interest in psychiatry. When I think about Susanna's journey from a 14-year-old forced to flee her home to a young woman helping rebuild her country, to creating a new life and family in Seattle, and ultimately becoming the first woman to lead one of our city's great institutions, I think we are welcoming someone who understands resilience, community, and service in a very personal way. And that makes Susanna a wonderful fit for Rotary. We are delighted that you've chosen to join the Rotary Club of Seattle, and I know you are going to enrich our club with your experience, your leadership, your perspective, and your heart. So please, everyone, join me in welcoming Susanna to the Rotary Club of Seattle.
Thank you, Vicky. You know, where's the, yeah, there it is. I periodically send out notices requesting blood donations. And it struck me, and it always seems like there's an emergency, and is it real? What's going on? Is Sten just crying wolf? But the answer is yes, it is real. And here's why. Think of our community blood supply as a life-giving stream. It constantly flows, and it is critical that the tributaries that fill that stream, you and I with our various blood types, maintain the flow through our donations. If, for example, that living flow had ceased prior to the Seattle Center shootings a couple of weeks ago, additional lives would have been lost. Some facts about blood donations. The procedure takes about an hour. Is that the right one? Oh, sorry about that. Okay. Look at it a different way to look at it. We all have about 1.25 gallons of blood in our system, and what we're asking you to donate is a pint. So it's not that much. Okay. The procedure itself takes about 10 minutes. However, the time from arrival to departure is about an hour. And this is largely because the health history questionnaire you have to fill out prior to donating. This step is essential to keeping the contamination out of the supply. Also, after donating, juices, coffee, cookies, and other refreshments are provided to quick start the replacement process. To minimize any side effects prior to donating, eat a proper balanced meal, not sugar donuts and the like. It does not have to be large, but you must eat something. Also drink juices or even coffee. The best result for best results, drink plenty of water the day before, the day of, and the day after your donation. It hurts. I mention that because if you've not donated, you're wondering, okay, but it hurts in exactly the same way as when you go to your doctor's office and you get a blood draw to see what your health is. No more, no less. And, if you can stand that bit of discomfort while saving somebody's life, it's worth it. To give you an idea of the need, Bloodworks Northwest needs 1,000 units per day. And so that's a big challenge ahead of us. And finally, 40% of us cannot donate. And that's the reason why the 60% who can should. If anybody here that has donated blood, please raise your hand. Appreciate it. Oh my goodness. That's terrific. And I'll tell you something else. Every time I send out a request, different people respond saying, I can't donate and here's why. And that puts them in the 40% that are unable to do it. And so it's up to the rest of us to compensate for that. At your places are cards that give you all the information you need to make an appointment at a location and at a time that's convenient for you. My email address is there as well. So feel free to contact me if you have any questions. Thank you very much.
Dan? Do you want these notes back or? No, okay, good. Well, they're all the same slide, every one of them. Thank you, Stan. It is all of us. Thank you for donating blood. It's one of the easiest things we can do to save a life. Isn't that amazing when you think about it? It's so simple and it actually could save. It does. save a human being's life. So I can't think of anything more rewarding than that. Well, first of all, Vicky, thank you for the introduction. Susanna, welcome to the club. I didn't realize you were president CEO. My gosh, you're a big shot. All right. Yeah, I would have made sure your chicken was cooked. Yeah, sorry about that. Well, you're considering the fact we all lost a little weight today, or will be losing a little weight. Anyway, let's move on. Yeah, this is why they didn't want me to be president. Susanna, at the end of the meeting, if you wouldn't mind standing at the back of the door, we would love to have everybody say, shake your hand and get to know you a little bit better. All right. Stin, where are you? There you go. Hey, you're a heck of a guy. Thank you so much. Still active, still contributing, still giving back. Appreciate your passion. We're going to move right along to Dr. Jevin Powell with announcements for today.
Thank you, President John. First of all, I just want to acknowledge all the folks who had their hands up for questions for Superintendent Shuldiner. Sorry I couldn't get to everybody today, but yeah, keep questions coming. Announcements. So tomorrow night, August 20th, Lake Union Happy Hour for Good. This is organized by the Lake Union Rotary Club, and Happy Hour for Good is a special event and featured David Bobanic's world famous paella. Where is David? He's working hard at this already. Okay, good man. There will be wine from Abbey Vineyard Winery, plus beer and non-alcoholic beverages from Talking Rain Beverage Company. Sue Nixon and her jazz quartet will be there too, so don't miss this event. It'll be an evening you won't soon forget. The next day, this Friday, the 21st, seize the opportunity to volunteer at local schools. You can help with back-to-school classroom and grounds preparations. These volunteer sessions are offered by the Alliance for Education in conjunction with our local service committee. The first session is this Friday at Lowell Elementary on Capitol Hill. So if that's in your neighborhood, check that out from 12:30 to 3:30. Or next Sunday, we can help out in the morning at Nathan Hale High School south of Lake City, and Dearborn Park Elementary in the afternoon on Beacon Hill. Our guest today, Superintendent Shuldiner, he will be at the work party at Nathan Hale, so you can go talk with him a little bit more, especially if you have more questions for him. August 26th, our Zoom-only meeting with Blue City Blues podcast hosts Sandeep Kaushik and David Hyde. They will be in conversation with Andrew Lewis. Blue City Blues is a podcast about what's broken, what's working, and what comes next in America's blue cities. Hosts David Hyde and Sandeep Kaushik will talk with super smart people. They dig into urban politics, governance, and culture. So join us on the 26th and hear what Andrew, Sandeep, and David have to say. September 2nd, we are back at the WAC with UW and WSU presidents Robert Jones and Elizabeth Cantwell. VP of Programs, Andrew Lewis, will facilitate this conversation as well, talking with the presidents of the state's two leading universities about higher education in America today. Members asked for service opportunities, and we are delivering. On September 13th, join fellow club members and other District 5030 Rotarians for a work party at Elk Run Farm in Maple Valley. Registration details, you can find those on our club website. Okay, two final announcements. On September 16th, our lunch meeting at the WAC will feature Seattle Opera director James Robinson. We will also have two new member introductions, yay, and a musical performance by a guest pianist. I don't have any names here. Wonder who that'll be. September 23rd, Zoom-only meeting with former City Council member Nick Licata, whom we can always count on to be well-informed and informative. And that's it for me. Back to you, President John.
Thank you, Dr. Powell. Wow, it was not what I was expecting from our superintendent today. It was very enlightening, but also I was very encouraged by what I heard. There are a lot of organizations that ours was one of them, that was facing some issues about economic viability, and we're past that. We are profitable, we're strong, and that's every place you got to start from. But I also heard a guy that was very strategic in his thinking and his implementations. So I'm confident that he's going to be able to help us. And our public school system, I mean, I also am a product of the public school system. In fact, everybody in the room that went to Seattle Public Schools. Would you raise your hand for a minute? I just was curious about our own Rotary Club. Yeah. Interesting. There is a strong urge for the private schools when they start getting into middle school. It's a tough time, but as you know, economically, a lot of people are suffering in this country. That middle class is kind of disappearing, and they're struggling so hard to either go up or they have to go down. So I think that was a real eye opener. Hopefully, we can find some things from our foundation to our organization that we can do to help the public school system. And with that, I want to thank everyone on the program for today. Definitely for us in education, this is a big topic, and I think we did a great job of running through it. And I am on the count here, but I do have one more little tiny thing I need to do. I'm just going to do a quick impersonation of Jan Levy looking for her notes. And I'm going to move on to Jan Levy, who can't find her notes. And, that's what I was looking for, our sponsors. Thanks, Jeff. It's great to have a former district governor in the room telling you what to do all the time. And he's very good at it. He's right on. I do want to thank our sponsors. Carl Benke, I don't think he's here today. I was kind of looking for that fellow white head, but I didn't see it. But thank him so much for his generosity in keeping our meetings going and helping to subsidize our costs with his donation from REB. And of course, Cascade PBS, who is also a sponsor. And any of you that have any of your organizations that can at all help us out, we're looking for more sponsors. It also helps the club to do more with the money it has. With nothing else on the agenda, Suzanne, I'm going to ask you to go to the back of the room now, because the Rotarians are always eager to get out and be the first ones out of the parking garage, because Rotarians hate to wait in line for anything. So thank you all for being here today. Thank you for a great meeting. We are adjourned.